Hello everyone, my name is Elijah David, minister of the 12th Hour Apostolic Sabbatarian Congregation Mount Zion at the 12th Hour in Liberty Hill, Texas. Today is September 18, 2013, or it is the 14th day of Tishri, 2017. We're going to start our first service today with a song entitled, Rescue the Perishing. Rescue the perishing, care for the dying, snatch them in pity from sin and the grave. Weep for the erring ones, lift up the fallen, tell them of Yahshua the mighty to save. Rescue the perishing, care for the dying, Yahshua is merciful, Yahshua will save. Though they are sliding him, still he is waiting the penitent the child to receive. Plead with them earnestly, plead with them gently, he will forgive if they only believe. Rescue the perishing, care for the dying, Yahshua is merciful, Yahshua will save. Down in the human heart, crushed by the tempter, feelings not buried that grace can restore. Touched by a loving heart, wakened by kindness, chords that were broken will vibrate once more. Rescue the perishing, care for the dying, Yahshua is merciful, Yahshua will save. Rescue the perishing, duty demands it, strength for the labor the Yahshua will provide. Back to the narrow way, patiently win them. Tell the poor wanderer a Savior has died. Rescue the perishing, care for the dying, Yahshua is merciful, Yahshua will save. Hello everyone, once again this is Elijah David with part 2 of the Judgment for the Living. We're in track 16 by the B.T. Harder at the 11th hour. We're in the 12th hour, but we're dealing with at the 11th hour and in the 12th hour simultaneously. Here's the track. I want you people that are of the Davidians, the Shepherd's Rod people, and followers of B.T. Harder. I want you folks in Africa, followers of the Branch Davidian Seventh-day Adventist Brothers W. Johnson at Gilead Center. You call yourselves Gileadites. Alright, I was a Gileadite for 33 and a half years. I know the experience. The Gilead was the last feeding pasture for the Seventh-day Adventists of the fourth group laborers of Matthew 20 verse 5. Called at the 9th hour. They worked in the 10th and 11th hour respectively. I was born in the Adventist Church in the 10th parabolic hour in 1938. I emerged into the next step of Gilead in 1970 with Brother W. Johnson, still a Seventh-day Adventist, advancing with the truth. I'm happy to say that I was a practicing born into the Adventist Church and a practicing Adventist clear up to 2002 as part of the fourth group laborers of Matthew 20 verse 5 called at the 9th hour. Okay. When it come time to close out the 9th hour workers, that fourth group, there's a fifth group to be called, and the last group at the 11th, about the 11th hour. The 11th hour ended in 2002. And it brought us then to the 12th hour, closing out the 11th hour. So I'm happy to say that I worked in the 10th hour with the Adventists from 38 to 1970. I was born in the Adventist Church. The 10th parabolic hour ended in 1970. And I stepped out on into the 11th hour. I worked the 11th hour with Brother Stevie Johnson from 1970 to 2003. And then 2003 began the 12th parabolic hour, and now I have been called to head up the 12th parabolic hour. So in essence, I worked in all 3 hours, parabolic hours. I worked in the midst of the 10th parabolic hour, getting credit for that hour as I worked the whole 11th hour from 1970 to 2003, and now I am called to head up the harvest of the judgment of the living in 2012. That's quite a calling. And only the antitypical Elijah of today could receive such a call. Could be born into it at the beginning of it, and to go all the way to the end of probation with it. That's the only one predestinated prophet for these last days. He was born to that, and Elijah means eternal, and Eliyahu, he got 2 parts of the father's name, Eliyahu, Elijah. And so he was born for his destiny was eternity. Not so with all those that preceded me that were not designated as this eternal prophet. Elijah is the eternal prophet. And typical David is the eternal prophet. Now David in the type wanted to build Yahweh a house to dwell in. And he says so then in 1 Chronicles 17 verse 1, it says, Now it came to pass as that David sat in his house, that David said unto Nathan the prophet, Lo, I dwell in the house of the cedars. Verily the ark of the covenant of the Yahweh, the Father, remaineth under curtains. Then David said, then Nathan the prophet said unto David, Do all that is in thine heart, for Elohim, Yahweh Elohim, is with thee. So, and it came to pass the same night that the word of the Yahweh came unto Nathan, saying, Go and tell David my servant, Thus saith the Yahweh, Thou shalt not build me a house to dwell in, for I have not dwelt in a house since the day that I brought up Israel unto this day. He's talking, Yahshua is one who's talking here. But have gone from tent to tent, and from one tabernacle to another, and indeed he did with the children of Israel on the wilderness, and they got to Sinai and got the law from Moses. They wandered for the next 40 years in over 40 different locations where they had to pitch their tent and then fold it back up and move to the next one. When that cloud moved on, Yahshua was in that cloud. When he moved on with that cloud, that tabernacle was folded up, and it was moved with the children of Israel to the next location. That was the first thing set up at the next location was that tabernacle. That was done over 40 times in 40 years in the wilderness. That's what Yahshua meant when he said that he went from tabernacle to tabernacle. He says, For I have not dwelt in a house since the day that I brought up Israel until this day, but have gone from tent to tent. Now he said, I have not dwelt in a house since the day that I brought up Israel unto this day. I started out not dwelling in a house here on earth because there was no permanent designation for a house to be set up. But now that David has made it into the land, some 500 years after Israel came out of Egypt, he's in the land now. He's on Mount Zion, there, where he now wants to build a permanent dwelling place for the house, to house he give Yahweh a house with the Ark of the Covenant in a building. So now David is in his heart, and so now Yahweh says David, it's now time to do this, but you're not going to do this. Your son Solomon's going to do it. Okay. But let me tell you a little secret. The antitypical David, Elijah David, speaking to you right now, he will be the last one to sit upon the throne of David. As far as a visible, physical human being and a direct lineal descendant of David. Yahshua is also a lineal descendant of David, but he's the invisible king. And so Yahshua will be the last king to sit upon David's throne. I'm the last earthly, physical, literal human being to sit upon it. But Yahshua is also the last one to sit upon it. And Yahshua sits upon the throne at the same time that I sit upon it visibly. So you're looking at the end, folks. And so now this throne, and typical David's throne, is going to build this house. Yahshua is here with his power from the Father to build this spiritual temple, to raise it back up. It says raise up the tabernacle of David. They have been falling down for many generations, and that's in Amos chapter 9. And we can hurriedly turn to that and read it. It says, verse 8 on, it says, behold, the eyes of the Yahshua, our Savior, are upon the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it from off the face of the earth. And that was Gilead's sinner. Saying, I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob, that's the house of David, saith the Yahshua. Below I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, like as corn is sifted in a sieve, yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth. All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, and that's the word of the rod of his mouth, Hebrews 4:12. which say that evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David. This is Yahshua going to raise it up by the spirit and power of his Father that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old. So as I am bringing you this restorative message, this restoration message, as it is being brought on a daily basis in a timely fashion, then you will know that this tabernacle of David is being raised up. This is a sign that you know it is being raised up in these last days. Okay? Now that's a very good admonition there, and with that in mind, we're going to go now to our regular reading, Mount Zion at the Judgment of the Living. Mount Zion in the 12th hour, and as you can already see my chart here in front of you, we're going to zoom in where you can get a good look at this here. Mount Zion in the 12th hour, Mount Zion in the 12th hour, 2003. Okay. Now, I have modified this clock more accurately. You see I've moved these numbers all back in their rightful place. They had been moved one number ahead on this parabolic 12-hour time clock. I put the number 1 back in the place of 12 where it belongs to start the first hour of the daylight. And when I got to number 12, it had 1 hour of daylight remaining to number 1 again. So I took the shorthand and I put the shorthand on 11. Now this 11 clock struck in 1970. I have another shorthand here pointing to number 12 in 2002. That's when yet the long hand is still on number 1, showing that 11 o'clock in 1970, 12 o'clock in 2002. Okay. I showed the 7th dominion. The 7th dominion is from 1844 clear up to 2012. Okay? And clear up to 2002, the 7th dominion. Closing out the Adventists all sixes, and they were the fourth group labors in Matthew 20 verse 5, and bringing in the eighth and new order and the eighth dominion. Now I'm going to read that to you from V.T. Holliff, where he talks about going from 7 to the 8, that there is another movement besides this number 7. It's a movement, but the seals are complete here with 7. With the Adventists and Laodicea, the seventh church of the 7, the seals are complete. So when you start counting dominions, starting with Adam's first dominion, right here at the 4th hour, at the beginning of the 4th hour, in his day, this is beginning the Adam's dominion, the first dominion. The 7th hour through the 10th was the second dominion. The 10th parabolic hour through the first hour of the day is your third dominion. Moses coming out of Egypt with the children of Israel. And your fourth dominion is from Egypt, 1500 BC, up to the cross. And so the children of Israel, the patriarchs and prophets, and Yahshua the Messiah worked in the first 3 parabolic hours. Yahshua at about the end of the 3rd parabolic hour went and called his disciples right here, and they closed out the 3rd parabolic hour here at the cross, and that began the 4th parabolic hour going forward. So your first 4 dominions was up to the cross, and that's what B.T. Holliff bears out in other tracts. He says the first 4 dominions are up to the cross. The last 3 dominions are from the cross on to through the 12th hour. And the 5th dominion began in AD 34. At the end of the 7-year period that Yahshua was cut off in the midst of the week of in AD 31, that week ended in 1834 with the call of Paul to be the 12th apostle to round out that cabinet that Yahshua chose the first 11. Judas was the 12th one, but he had to be purged out. Paul took his place. But Paul took his place 3.5 years after Judas was purged out. So in 1834 began the 4th hour officially. Okay, and the 4th hour ran all the way up to 1500 with Martin Luther here at 1500. The 6th hour began 1810 with Alexander Campbell. It ended here straight up midday, closing out number 6, and the call of William Miller in 1833, the 6th church, the Millerite movement. William Miller had the 3 parabolic hours to work in, the 7th, 8th, and the 9th, which reached from 1833 to 1844. Ellen G. White, the first of the 4th group labors, called in Matthew 20 verse 5, called it the 9th hour, meaning closing out the 9th hour. She worked in the 10th hour, and the Adventists worked, and her successors that had the 3 feeding pastors worked from 1844 clear up to 2002, closing out the 4th group of labors. The 5th group of labors headed up by Elijah David come here at the 12th parabolic hour. And of the 8th, now we're the 8th. And what does that beast say, that scarlet colored beast? He's the number 7 beast in Revelation 17. But when he goes into perdition, comes out at the end of the millennium, he's the 8th. And it says that he's the 8th, but he's of the 7th. Well, I'm the 8th, but I'm of the 7th. Okay? The same corresponding parallel. Okay, now, because the reason why we have the parallel of these 7s, everything, because 7 seals, the book of 7 seals only calls for 7 dominions to be judged. But guess what? When all the 7 dominions are finished being judged, then opens up the 7th seal, the last one, in 2002. And all those that had worked in this, lived and died in the 7th seal, then they were judged, both dead and living alike. They were living there when the 7th seal opened in 2002. Brother Johnson and the 11th hour group represented the living, that were standing there living. They were those that had died in the 11th hour that had to be also judged. So the steward of the vineyard, the one that is number 8, that is called to head up the 12th hour, Elijah David, he's the one that calls all these laborers and gives them their house. It's going backwards to 11th, 10th, 9th, 8th, 7th, 6th, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And likewise through on back to the 4th hour, when sin began to reign with Adam and Eve's fall at the Garden of Eden. That's a lot of information to have to give out there just for a prayer thought, but you know, folks, this is what we've got to learn. This is what we've got to learn. This is what Yahweh has been training me for the last, well, ever since I was born. In 1938, I was preordained to this. By the time I was 6 years old, I knew that I was specially called to be a servant. And I learned my lessons well at the age of 6. I could take and recite every book of the Bible. Well, actually, by the time I was 5 years old, I could recite every book of the Bible. I could take a pencil and paper and write it out, print it out, and spell every book of the Bible correctly, sight unseen, and memorize them. And memorize many scriptures. My first scripture that I ever learned to memorize was John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. And I learned it just in that fashion. So what I'm saying is, my learning has never stopped. And so now I'm at the place where it is paying off. Indeed, it has to pay off. There's nobody ever been called before me that's been able to unscramble all these prophecies and parables and symbols and allegories. All the way back to the Garden of Eden. That has been the gift that has been given to the Elijah David, and so having said all of that, we're going to now get into our number 2 study of the judgment of the living, taken from B.T. Harder's tract, that's number 16, at the 11th hour. Okay. And so we're going to start on about page, let's see, we're going to start on a page about 7 of this little tract, I believe. Now that we're going to do a little review. We're going to start on the page, the last paragraph, page 6 of this little tract, and the subtitle is Judah to keep her solemn feast, or Judah will keep her solemn feast. I changed that to future preposition to the present tense. Judah will keep her solemn feast at her appointed time. Let us continue now. For this judicial work of the cleansing of the house of the Yahweh and Yahshua. The initial work of the judgment of the living. 8th order. Steward of the vineyard. Call the laborers given their house. Start with the last verse, Matthew 20, verse 8. And call the steward of the vineyard is the caller. Okay, I'm the steward of the vineyard. So it says, so the cleansing of the house of Yahweh, and that cleansing started in 2002 at Kermit, Texas. Started at the Passover, and it culminated with atonement, completely cleansed that temple of Gilead's sin. Okay, so it says, for the judicial work of the cleansing of the house of the Yahweh, as the initial work of the judgment of the living, is now mercifully awaiting in this fast fleeting pre-11th hour of the grace of the self-judging. 1 Corinthians 11:31 and 1 Timothy 5:24. Now this is interesting. B.T. Harder is with the writer of this tract in 1955, and the hour that he was in was indeed the 10th hour, parabolic hour. He thought he was in the 11th, but he said pre-11th hour. Well, the only hour it could be for the pre-11th would be the 10th one, right here. So he had it right. Inspirationally, he had it right. He said, our response to the voice of the message, crying, awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion. Put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. For henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. Okay. Now, Ellen G. White made a prophecy in 1844. she showed the prophecy of the 2300 days had met their fulfillment. They'd come to their fulfillment in 1844, meaning that everything that was prophesied in that of the prophecy of the 2300 days, everything that was prophesied after that, she said the sanctuary was to be restored back to its rightful order. In 1970, Evangelist W. Johnson received a full commission to restore that sanctuary back to its rightful order. Now, how interesting, because V.T. Hart is saying here, to awake in 1955, to that people that were going to come on the scene at the beginning of the 11th hour, 1970. He's admonishing them, awake, awake. So Vernon Johnson was the one that was training and being called to get prepared to head up the 11th hour, 1970. So he's the one that this message is to, not to Ben Roden, V.T.'s successor, but Vernon W. Johnson, that was waiting in the wings to come forth. Because this is indeed exactly what Vernon Johnson preached when he started his ministry in 1970. It was Isaiah 52:1. He says, awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion, put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city, for henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. Now, how do you put on your beautiful garments? How do you do it? Mount Zion in the 10th hour, the Seventh-day Adventists did not have those garments. They had possession of them, but they didn't have them on. They didn't put them on. Now, in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, it talks about what those garments are that you have to be clothed upon, that the Mount Zion at the 11th hour, Brother Johnson 1970 was called to be clothed upon with that house from heaven. Now, here in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, it tells about, and it's a command. There's a command there in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, to be clothed upon with this house from heaven. And I'm going to read it to you. It says, for we know that if this earthly house of this tabernacle were dissolved, we have a building of the Yahweh Elohim, and a house not made with the hands, eternal in the heaven. For in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed upon with our house which is from heaven. Now, Brother Johnson quoted this in 1970 when he restored the sanctuary system with all the feast days, with all the divine institutions that go with it, that the man of sin trampled underfoot during the dark age. Those divine institutions that goes with the restoration of the feast days and raising up that tabernacle of David, well, it's the sacred name, the daily. Number one is the daily. Or number one is the sacred name, number two is the daily. The 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock, that's the heartbeat of the sanctuary system restored. Because that's where you meet with Yahshua at his appointed hours. And that's where he offers his sprinkled blood for you on a daily basis for those that have sins to be remitted and so forth. That comes confessing them on a daily basis. It's at those sacred hours that that fountain of David is open for sin and uncleanness today. There in Zechariah 13. That's that hour, those are the hours when that Ezekiel 47 river is flowing out of the sanctuary. Meaning truth is flowing every day. He's showing it in the form of a river. A river flows continuously every day as long as it's got water. Every moment, every second. And it's depicted as starting in the sanctuary at the altar of remission. Okay? Now, so Brother Johnson is using 2 Corinthians that we got to be clothed up on that house in heaven, that is the divine ordinances, for we that are in this tabernacle do groan, being burdened, not for that we would be unclothed, but clothed upon that mortality might be swallowed up of the life eternal. That's why we want to be clothed upon with our garments from heaven. We want this new garment. So that mortality, this life of sin and death, won't reign over us continuously. If we're clothed upon this house from heaven, then we pass from mortality to immortality. You can go read that in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, the whole chapter. It covers the whole thing. All right? Now, let's get back to our reading now. It says, O Zion, put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. Now this is what makes it the holy city now. Once you put upon these beautiful garments, be clothed upon that house of heaven. Now it's called the holy city, Mount Zion, in the 12th hour. Mount Zion at the 12th hour. For henceforth there shall no more come unto thee the uncircumcised and unclean, showing that the wheat and the tares now have finally come to their harvest. And the Adventist Church and the Davidians and the Branch Davidians collectively at the same time started. And so it says, that's in Isaiah 52:1, that's the prophecy for be you clothed upon this house of heaven. And so that prophecy of Isaiah 52:1 made its fulfillment in 1970, first with the house of Esau and with the antithetical house of King Saul, the antithetical house of Ahab, the antithetical house of Eli, okay, which Rose Johnson represented all of those characters. It's a horrible thing, but a lot had to fall on somebody in these last days, and it just fell on him, and unfortunate, but it did. So it says, behold upon the mountain the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, and also Rose Johnson inherited the descendant of Ishmael, the firstborn of the flesh by Abraham, never to be reborn again, to join the Emmanuels. And you find that prophecy in Isaiah 7. Okay? So now it goes on to say here, behold upon the mountains the feet of him that bringeth good tidings. What mountains? The mountains of Israel, Seventh-day Adventists and the Davidians, collectively. For this gospel of the kingdom, meaning the teaching of the plan of salvation of the blood of the everlasting covenant, Matthew 24:14, our purified house of Yahweh that publishes peace, O Judah, keep thy solemn feast, perform thy vows, for the wicked shall no more pass through thee. That is in the kingdom now. They can't pass through you in the kingdom, because you're in the kingdom, purified. They can't pass through that no more. He is utterly cut off, Nahum 1:15. So then, because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth, because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with gifts, and have need of nothing. And knowest not that thou art wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked? I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear. And anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous therefore and repent, Revelation 3:16 and 19. And it shall come to pass at that time that I will search Jerusalem with candles, and punish the men that are settled on their league, that say in their heart, for the Yahweh will not do good, neither will he do evil. Therefore their goods shall become a booty, and their houses a desolation. They shall also build houses, but not inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards, but not drink the wine thereof, for the day of the Yahweh is near. It is near, and its haste is greater, even the voice of the day of the Yahweh. For the mighty man shall cry there bitterly. Zephaniah 1:12-14. Thus Isaiah, Nahum, and Zephaniah, along with others of the prophets, prophesied of the coming which John saw was to be hereafter. And that is in Revelation 4:1. From his time now we come to the time of that solemn event of the judgment for the essential message of the book of Revelation, in which, remember, all the books of the Bible meet and end. And it says, for the 5th chapter of the Revelation needs to be closely studied. It is of the great importance unto those who shall act a part in the work of the Yahweh, or the Yahshua, for these last days. Now, why are we saying that this Revelation 5 needs to be understood real closely? Because that's the judgment of the living in the 12th hour. Revelation 4 is the judgment of the dead from 1844 to 2003. Revelation 5 is the judgment of the living from 2003 on to the end of time. Okay. There are some who are deceived. They do not realize what is coming on the earth. Unless they make a decided change, they will be found wanting when Yahweh pronounces judgment upon the children of the men. Testimonies, Volume 9, page 267 by the Elder G. White. Okay. For the Yahweh will bless all who will seek humbly and meekly to understand that which is revealed in the revelation. For this book contains so much that is lodged with the immortality and full of the glory, that all who read and search it earnestly receive the blessing unto those that hear the words of this prophecy and keep those things which are written therein. Testimony, the Ministers 1:14. Okay. Now he's got here, page 9 of his book is a chart of the investigative judgment with the 7 seals. Now, we're not going to go into that right now because we don't have the chart period to graphically show you what he's talking about, but we're going to go in now to the wonderful revelation of this book of the 7 seals that it reveals. Folks, V.T. Hall is absolutely right. As I have already gone through this tract before, I have found out that this tract, that V.T. Hollis had a vision just before he passed away in 1955, apparently. And he, like Moses, just before Moses died, Yahweh took Moses in the mount, and he showed him panoramically that goodly land of Israel. But you know what? What Moses saw was that goodly land that was the Garden of Eden restored. He didn't show him what that land was going to look like when the children of Israel went into it and had to go in and out of it. He showed Moses that goodly land at the end of the world in the 12th hour. So, V.T. Hollis, like Moses, and incidentally, V.T. Hollis played the last 40-year period of the antitypical Moses' life in the wilderness with the children of Israel. So V.T. Hollis' counterpart was antitypical Moses. Okay. Moses died, but he got to see the end of the 12th hour. V.T. Hollis died in the 10th parabolic hour. He thought the 11th was the last one, but the 12th is your last one. He didn't see that. But he was shown the information he put down in this tract right here. And when I get through doing this tract fully, from here on out, you're going to understand why he saw that goodly land, just like Moses did. Because he opened up the book of Revelation like he had never even touched on before he wrote this tract. He opened up the Daniel and the Revelation like it has never been opened up before. And he left it all out there for his successor, Ben Roden, to continue with unfolding these truths that he laid down in tract 16. Ben Roden scuttled it. He went off and invented his own religion, called the branch, and Brother Johnson scuttled this tract also. But he did what he was commissioned to do in 1970. Brother Johnson did, not Ben Roden. Brother Johnson did. And so now, it took exactly from 1970 to 2013, 43 years for this tract number 16 to materialize here in the 12th hour with the valuable information that's in it. For now we've had the complete book of the Revelation has been opened up now, and so I'm going to, when I get through this tract, I'm going to start back again with Revelation chapter 1 with Daniel intact, and I'm going to show you the parallel that Daniel prophecies they reached up to the beginning of the Revelation. Revelation picked up the prophecies of the Daniel's vision and published the beginning of the Revelation in prophecy, and coalescing Daniel's prophecies in with the book of the Revelation. But there's definitely a line between the two. I'm going to show you where Daniel's prophecies reached up to And then John the Revelator in the Revelation interpreted them. The interpretation is in the Revelation of Daniel's prophecy. This is awesome, folks. Alright? Now, it says that, as we continue reading from our tract, number 16, it says, "So then, because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot." Now, he's addressing this angel, Brother Johnson of the seventh candlestick, Laodicea. It's trying to text in 2002. Now we can put names, places, faces, and dates on these prophecies. "So then, because thou art lukewarm, Brother W. Johnson, angel of the seventh candlestick, Laodicea, and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth." Here's that word "will" again. And remember I told you that subtitle a while ago for Judah was, "Judah will keep her solemn feast"? Well, now, she will keep them, but she no guarantee that she has to keep them if she don't want to. It's her choice. Also, likewise with this angel of the seventh candlestick, let's see it, Brother Johnson. He said he was given a way out. If he would repent, then he wouldn't be spewed out. Okay, so he was offered to repent on July the 14th, 2002, or be spewed out, and he chose to be spewed out by his own volition. His own decision determined whether he lived or died, or where he stayed, or he went away. So he says, "Because thou art lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth, because thou sayest, I am rich, and increased with goods." Well, Brother Johnson started out as a poor man, as an Adventist coal porter. But man, he graduated clear up into the full windows of heaven being opened up, and every blessing in the world poured out upon him. "And have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched, and miserable, and poor, and blind, and naked. I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear. And anoint thine eyes with the eye salve, that thou mayest see. As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous therefore and repent." Revelation 3:16-19. "And it shall come to pass at that time that I will search Jerusalem with candles, and punish the men that are settled on their leaves, that say in their heart, the Yahshua will not do good, neither will he do evil. Therefore their goods shall become a booty, and their houses a desolation." Okay. Now this is talking about the whole Adventist world. As soon as the house of David takes possession of the kingdoms of this world, with 144,000 intact as his lawgivers, as his Congress and Senate, that are lawmakers and lawgivers, as soon as they emerge intact, then we go and we collect and take possession of all the Adventist holdings around the world. I'm talking about all the way from their publishing houses, their churches, their schools, everything that they own and possess. The house of David would take them over. So folks, for the saints abroad that are all over the world, there's going to be plenty of places to dwell in for you. Because you're going to dwell in those places that they built, but the scripture says they will not inhabit. Okay? They shall also build houses. Okay. So these new people, these new saints are going to build houses. After they have come into the kingdom, they're going to go out and build houses. Well, actually I say they are. It's talking about, they also shall build houses. It's talking about this here, the Adventist church and their people are the tares. It says they also shall build houses, but not inhabit them. And they shall plant vineyards, but not drink the wine thereof. So the saints are not going to build houses. They're going to dwell in those houses that their former brethren that fell away had already built. For the great day of the Yahshua is near. Okay. It is near and haste is greater, even the voice of the day of the Yahshua, for the mighty man shall cry their bitterly. Zephaniah 1:12-14. Now, I want to ask you something else. and show you something else here in John 14, where Yahshua says, it's expedient that I go away, and then he tells the disciples, in my Father's house are many mansions. Okay. What's the Father's house here on earth? It's his house of Israel, his spiritual house of Israel. That's his Father's house. So when Advent came on the scene in 1844, showing that that's the beginning of the Father's house here on earth. Okay. Now, in John 14, we're dealing with a local present application here on this earth. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in the Yahweh, believe also in me. In my Father's house, and the Father's house in 1844 was the Adventist Church, are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. Okay. In other words, I go home and I become coordinated as a king, sit upon David's throne, and I inherit all the kingdoms of this world, and I get prepared. And he says, then I get prepared to come back to this earth and bring judgment upon Yahweh's house. It has been commingled with wheat and tares since I left and went away, because you asked me, you said, from whence come these tares? And you said to us, while men slept, an enemy hath done this. He came and sowed tares among the wheat. Okay, so when Yahshua went back, the good watchman on the house was asleep, and they let enemies come in and sow tares in the house of Yahweh. So now, Yahshua goes back to get coordinated as king of kings and sovereign of sovereigns, to come back as a judge of this world. And now he's going to come back and cast out those tares out of the Father's house. And those tares in the Father's house has many more mansions than the saints. They have all the houses. So now he says, I go to prepare a place for you. In other words, I go to prepare judgment for the tares that have infiltrated the house of Yahweh here on earth. Okay. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again, receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. So now he's going to come back to this earth. He's going to receive them unto himself where he left off from them and where he left them behind, here on this earth. And what are they going to do? They're going to enter into those mansions that they have taken possession of from those tares that had infiltrated the house of Yahweh around the world. And that's the kingdom of David. And the kingdom of David made up, the purified saints are made up, and they take possession of all the house, so they don't have to worry about building houses to dwell in. There's going to be millions of these saints. They're going to need places to dwell in until they finish harvesting their brethren from all around the world. Okay? That should be very well conclusive for a here on this earth application. This would be your first application of that in my Father's house of many mansions, because this literally going to meet fulfillment here on this earth and come to pass. Now it says, so the wonderful revelation, this is the subtitle now of our next study, with its central focus of the concern being the judgment for the living, starting at the 12th parabolic hour in 2002 at the Tacoma, Texas. For the revelation necessarily speaks for the subject centuries before the actual event, for the convening of the judgment for the living, and the opening up of the seventh seal, as exclusively for the judgment of the living. The first 6 seals are exclusively for the judgment of the dead. First 6 seals reached all the way from Adam's first dominion clear up to 2002. Closing out the 6 seals with Brother W. Johnson, all 6s. Brother Johnson introduced all 7s in 1970, but he was still of all the 6s. And those 7 beasts is also of all the 6s. Okay. Elijah David advances with all the 7s in the 8th movement of 2002. Okay. So now it says right here, for the revelation necessarily speaks for the subject centuries before the actual event, for the convening of the judgment of the living, and in the Mount Zion the 12th hour, 2002 at the Kermit, Texas, which John was privileged to see panoramically as a judgment book containing the record of the all-time works of all nations and peoples, and sealed with the 7 seals. And sealed with the 7 seals. A seal for each dominion, folks. A seal for each dominion. First dominion, Adam. Second dominion, Enoch, the 7th generation from Adam. The third dominion is Noah, would be then the 8th generation from Adam. Okay? And the 9th, and the third dominion reaching all the way from Noah clear up to the children of Israel coming out of Egypt with Moses. Okay? And then the 9th generation begin with Yahshua, with Moses and children of Israel at the cross. Okay? So we have this first dominion, second dominion is the 7th generation, Noah with the 8th generation, Moses with the 9th generation. Okay? From the Egypt to the cross. 10th generation is right here from the Yahshua at the end of the 3rd hour up to William Miller. Your 11th generation right here, William Miller, 1833, and your 12th generation from 1844, with Adventists exclusively, with 2 groups of Adventists working, and those 3 parabolic hours. The 4th group of Adventists gets the 10th and 11th simultaneously, and the 5th group of Adventists gets the 12th hour, Elijah David. Okay. Well, we've laid a lot of groundwork. We haven't got a whole lot of reading in, but that's all very well. We're going to bring you up to a stopping point, and then our next study, which will be number 3, Judgment of the Living, we're going to really open up the seals and the trumpets, and we're going to explain to you what that extra oil is. It says, as John is privileged to see panoramically as a judgment book containing the record of the all-time works of all nations and peoples, and sealed with the 7 seals, was opened by the line of the tribe of Judah, Yahshua himself. To find that opening of that prophecy in Revelation chapter 5. As he consecutively broke the seals, he thus progressively opened the book, one book at a time, starting with the first seal, started that in 1844. When fully opened, though, then it will mean that all of the 6 seals for the dead has been investigated and judged from 1844 to 2002. And then that book of the 7th seal is open. So when that book is fully open, with the 7th seal also open, and the 7th seal opened in 2002 at Kermit, Texas, that's what we're talking about now. So we can say when that's fully open, would be 2002, we put right there. So that being fully open, the 7 seal sections of the Revelation reveal that which was to take place at the time that the nations and peoples were to pass in the review before the judicial tribunal. The judicial tribunal, folks, is brought to view there in Daniel 7, when thrones were first set up, when seats was placed around, and you had the 4 beasts and the 24 elders sitting upon thrones. That started your judicial tribunal for the judgment of the dead. That same judicial tribunal makes the transition from the dead to the living, but it continues on being the same sit-up. Same 24 elders, and those 4 beasts represents the elders of all the dominions in their time, clear back to Adam. Okay? And so you'll find that depicted in chapters 4 and 5 as clearly unveiled in our companion tract number 15. And number 15 is this tract right here for the 7 churches. Pay close attention, folks. For the 7 churches. 7 candlesticks. Laodicea being the 7th one. That's tract number 15 that preceded this tract number 16 I'm reading from. If you can get that tract, read it thoroughly, from one end to the other, because this is going to be our main focus from here on in. Tract 15 and tract 16. Because it deals with the unfolding of the whole book of Revelation from Revelation 1 through 22. Okay? This is where we're at in the stream of time, folks. When it comes time for this revelation to be fully explained and interpreted, and know for surety, it is even at the door. He is even at the door, folks. I'm going to try to slow down on my studies and explain to you in detail more slowly, so that you can get these here and repeat them all, find the points often. Write them down, or just re-listen to these tapes, and so forth. It says, indeed, in the Revelation, all the books of the Bible meet and end. Actually, the Apostles, 585, and all the nations and people too. And all the nations and people also end. Through the Revelation, therefore, we who live during the judgment hour of the living, in the 12th parabolic hour, can see the past, the present, and the future. For we behold the prophecies meeting their fulfillment, and yet being fulfilled as the judgment progresses. Okay, 2300 days met their fulfillment in 1844. We've had many fulfillments since 1844. We had a fulfillment in 1890 at a prophetic interval. Jones and Wagner came down with a message. Righteous by faith. We had a prophetic interval in 1930, we had a prophetic interval in 1970, and we had a prophetic interval in 2002. Count them up. This brings us close to our study this hour. Contact us at the 11th hour call, and that's number 11. Click on our audio archive to hear this message and more. We will close now with an appropriate song. Harvest time. Far near the fields are teeming with the sheaves of robin grain. Far near the gold is gleaming o'er the sunny slope and plain. Yah of harvest, send forth reapers, hear us, Yah, to thee we cry. Send them now the sheaves together, ere the harvest time pass by. Send them forth with morn's first beaming, send them in the noontide glare. When the sun's last rays are streaming, bid them gather everywhere. God of harvest, send forth reapers, sare us, Yah, to thee we cry. Send them now the sheaves together, the harvest time pass by. O thou whom thy Yah is sending, gather now the sheaves of gold. Heavenward then at evening bending, thou shalt come with joy untold. Yahshua of harvest, send forth reapers, hear us, Yahshua,